Yeah.
Everyone good?
Well,
All right. Mike, all set? Welcome to the Essex Junction Trustees meeting. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody, and if you are not staff, please sign in if you get a chance. Evan, do we have anything to add to the agenda tonight?
Yes, I'd like to add one item.
Yep.
Under 7, make it C. I've received a petition from the seniors about ADA issues at the senior center.
Great, thank you. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move we amend the agenda as presented.
Do I hear a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great, it's added. So, next order of business. Anyone in the audience, is audience to be heard? Anyone? Oh, what?
excuse me, that went fast. So Andrew, you.
Andrew and Dan.
Second.
Dan, okay, thank you. Just want to make sure.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I know they're so hard.
Anyone in the audience have something to question, comment about something that's not on the agenda tonight? All good? Okay. We will now move on to the winter operation plan. Dennis Lutz. Rick, you coming up? All right.
Dennis and Rick. He's making me.
Dragging here.
I thought they canceled winter. Now they're gonna have it this year, huh?
El Nino's coming, so it might be a warm one.
Yeah, it should be. This is pretty simple. Not much has changed in terms of the winter operations plan for the village. There's a number of things that changed in the town. We went to the select board last Monday night, or I did, and they approved the plan. So the request is that the village also approve the plan, and if you have any questions, we're both here to answer.
Everybody's right, right?
Yeah.
Did. Whole thing. Yep. Thank you for the track changes.
Track changes.
That's
Very
helpful.
The track changes are really helpful.
Really, really helpful.
It's sort of separated, because I was starting to go, do I have to read this whole thing, you know?
You just go to the red.
It's like pretty hard. The only thing, I guess, is that the impacts from the school busing is that, you know, just general, what's the sense gonna be in the village and the town? Do you have a sense of that?
I don't-
Any big differences this year from last year?
We're gonna keep continuing
Yeah.
plowing like we always have.
Okay.
The town portion, it has impacted us. The areas where the kids are gonna walk, especially elementary school, we're gonna plow sidewalks more in there than we have in the past, so we've gotten additional equipment.
Okay.
We've got some more temporary help to help out this winter.
Okay.
Kinda got caught late in September with what's gonna happen. We do have some issues up there because there's a number of streets, Tanglewood, Levine, a few others that don't have sidewalks. And that's within the walking distance of the school. So some of those, we're gonna end up, they're flat roads, and typically they're done at the end of the shift. We're trying to do the Sand Hills, the Susie Wilson roads, those. We have a meeting tomorrow. Actually, it's a joint meeting. We're gonna start and talk about the winter plan, and then we're gonna break off, and we're gonna talk at length about what we've got to do with some of the trucks to divert them up. The whole intent would be to get those streets open and passable, at least a lane, before the kids go out the door. The other concern we have is end of the day, because kids will be coming home a lot of times in the dark. So for me, a couple of the issues are drivers speeding. Not been an issue, but we have GPS on the vehicles, and we can check if somebody is speeding, so that's a concern. And also visibility, and that's nothing we can do ourselves, but we did put in the winter plan that, you know, the concern that parents should ensure their kids are visible, meaning wear the right clothing, and that applies to adults too. Elderly, if you're walking and you're walking on the
Pretty
street.
much anybody.
Anybody.
Please
you know,
wear
be
something
visible.
reflective.
And also that because they've put bus stops together at one location, as opposed to almost at each house, that's a place where kids are gonna congregate in the morning.
Right.
And when kids congregate around snow piles in the morning, they tend to play and have fun. And that's another thing we're gonna probably put ads in the paper on, is that's not the place to do it.
Yeah.
It can get very dangerous, and take one of our sidewalk, or one of our street plows traveling down the road, there's a long stopping distance.
Yep.
And so the concern is, those kind of concerns. We'll get through this winter. We picked up an additional sidewalk plow. We've got a temporary on loan until that comes in, and we have people to cover it. So we'll be doing more sidewalk clearing. We
And
have
Dennis,
some
basically,
long-term,
we bought that plow early.
Early.
We had it in our plan to buy it, but we bought it early.
we leased it with an option to buy, so it'll be ours. But it really didn't cost the voters any more. When you did the math, it works out about the same as if we waited a couple of years. So that'll be underway. I think the longer-term concern as we go forward is there's an ADA study that was done with the village and the town, so the CCRPC. There's been so much on the table, we haven't brought it to either board yet.
Right.
We plan to do that December, January, maybe after budget season, to go through it. We asked them to take a look at, identify what the standards were, and also to identify where we had specific problems. And you can probably look anywhere in town and you're gonna find, or village, and find a sidewalk that's raised or a curb that isn't perfect. But the point is, where are the major issues and where are the problem areas? Once you identify those, then you obviously have to do something about it. So one of the things we'll start to do is look at that in line with the sidewalk plowing plan for next year. We have some sidewalks that don't have any handicap access ramps at all. They're the old curbs that go back to the 50s.
Yeah.
So that you take a sidewalk plow and try to do that and do a 90-degree turn, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of a double shot. We're gonna have to fix the ADA problems, but fix them in locations that will benefit us where we may wanna gradually extend our coverage over time. So that's quick and dirty.
Okay.
Maybe
thank
not
you.
quick, but
Thank you.
that's it.
Just a quick question following up about this ADA study. Could we have the results of that, especially for the capital committee's sake, that could affect some of the rankings that we have for some projects? And so if that's going to cause any kind of shifting, it'd be good to know sooner rather than later.
I thought that the approach on most of these, when the CCRPC puts it out to a contractor to do, we've got to reread it again to make sure that we're good with all the comments, and then bring it to the board. At that point, it's a document that goes out to everybody. I just didn't feel it was proper to release it early until both boards have a chance to get it first and see what's in it. Because it's not, at this particular point, it's mostly complete, but it's under final review. So until that gets done, it's kind of still, it's there, the bulk of it's there, but in my view, it's not releasable yet to give out. But we want to get it out, and then we'll see what we can do to make things work.
It sounds like something that should also go out to the trails, sidewalk, and
Conservation, bike walk,
Yeah.
advisory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
one of the other things that we, somewhat similar to this, is we also want to look at where we should have our ped crossing lights and prioritize them. Because they are expensive and they're expensive to maintain, so we want to prioritize where they are placed.
I don't know if you know this. So in the town, in regards to the school busing plan, is the expectation that they will now always have children walking? Or are they hoping over time that those bus routes will be filled again?
I can't answer that.
Okay.
That's a question for the school.
Yeah.
My understanding is this is probably the future of where it's headed, and that's
Okay.
bus stops at central locations and not
Bus
in
stops
town.
at central locations
Which-
was going to continue.
Right.
It is my understanding, and as I understand it, and maybe I'll
And it
get a
changes,
call
yeah,
from Brian
right.
tomorrow morning, they are looking at some radius around the schools that are going to be walking.
Right. In the town as well. I know they are in the village,
Yeah.
in the town as well.
In the
Okay.
town, and, well, the village doesn't have busing yet, but
Right.
ultimately, it's whether it's a quarter mile, a third of a mile, or
Right.
half a mile, they're planning on that radius
Being there.
being walking.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Do we have to make a motion?
We do. So is there a motion to accept and approve the winter operations plan for 2018-19?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Great, thank you.
Thank you
And
very much.
Thank you both. I will say again that the track changes is very helpful.
Yes, thank you
Okay,
very
we
much.
will
So thank
continue
you
to
for
do
that.
that. We
Yes.
heard you loud and clear on that. I do have one other comment, just because I wasn't aware that you have an item added to the agenda today, and I don't intend to stay for that, but it should be aware I am going to meet tomorrow. I have a meeting at 1 o'clock. It wasn't pre-planned, it just happened with Liz Luann to talk about some of the ADA stuff at the senior center. So whatever that's about, we've already talked and are gonna meet, so, just for information purposes.
And Dennis, just so you know, I've actually put out some feelers in regards to potential grants for that as well, so if I can come up with anything, I'll let you know.
Okay, good, thank you.
Thank you. We are on to approval of a net metering contract with Green Lantern Solar, doing business as Essex Sand Hill Solar LLC. Greg?
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hi, Greg.
So hopefully you remember, but back in April, the village was approached by Green Lantern Solar. There's a solar array going up on River Road, the corner of River Road and Sand Hill Road. It's received its permits, a 500 kilowatt array. And Green Lantern approached the village about being entering a net metering agreement and being the off-taker for that energy production. Since then, worked through contract issues. Green Lantern's gotten their permits from the Public Utility Commission. The contract, or the group net metering agreement that is included in your packet, that was approved by the select board last week. The village attorney has taken a look at this, has a few modifications that she'd like to work through, going back and forth with Green Lantern on that stuff. In my opinion, it's nothing too substantial, and we should be able to work through it, but in the interest of moving things along and not holding them up any longer for another 3 weeks until your next meeting, was looking for authorization from the board to authorize the manager to finalize and execute that contract.
Okay.
Have to answer questions about it or the contract as much as I can.
Anyone questions? I don't have any questions. I think we all, were familiar when you came through the last time around, so I don't have anything specific. If Claudine and Evan are happy with the contract,
I'm fine with subject to final attorney form.
okay. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move the trustees authorize the unified manager to execute a solar net metering contract with Green Lantern Solar, doing business as Essex Sand Hill Solar LLC, subject to attorney approval.
Second?
Any further discussion? And I do appreciate that, I just want to note that the contract will save the village approximately $7,700 per year. That's always good, so that's very, very nice, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great, thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Greg.
Okay, let me get up to here, and so Rick, we're back on to new business, bid award for the Public Works wheel loader.
This is gonna, we're gonna have to replace one of our, we use a backup skid steer. I think I've talked to you folks about this a few times.
Yep.
And it's a 2001 cat skid steer that we've used since 2001, about 2,100 hours on it. And instead of trading that one in, I want to keep that. So we went out for a bid for another machine, so it gives us another backup. With the sidewalks being the way they are, the priorities. And then also we're using Parks and Rec. We're starting to use some of our stuff too, because the school department used to do their stuff. So we're trying to help them out a little bit too, so some of this equipment's gonna be handy. So we went out and spec'd out a machine for the replacement of this unit without trading this one in. And we received the one bid. And I tried to go out for get more bids, but the width of it is so hard to get with the amount of horsepower we need for that. So that's why we have the one bid. It's gonna be basically a mini loader, as you see. Have a V-plow on it. It's gonna be a nice backup machine, and then if we get the bigger storms, we can get contractors in if we needed to. Like we can get a local contractor, they can easily run that machine. It's easier to run than our primary sidewalk machines. It did come in a little over budget, and I've talked to the finance lady over there. She said, okay, I might be able to make it happen. Is that what it was, or no?
No, I said, okay.
Well, after she stopped crying.
Right.
Maybe if you let her drive it, it should be.
Would that be fun?
Yeah.
If it gets approved, and if we get it, you're more than welcome. You come over before your retirement.
Maybe in
It's
the
like-
parking lot.
Oh, yeah, no.
Second career, Lauren.
Yeah, right. I agree. I don't know.
Keep her in the parking lot, nice and shade, away from other vehicles. Yeah, so again, this is gonna be, and if our neighbors to the north, you know, Dennis and those guys, I know they've got some backup stuff too, but they're gonna start feeling the funds of
Yeah, they
sidewalk
are.
and snow removal.
Yes.
So in case, you know, that's something, what's nice about this unit too, is they got a high and low on it for travel speed. So if you go from the shop, you can run up to wherever, you know, halfway decent.
Is this a piece of equipment that you can actually detach? It's not just is it
It's
articulated and it's got, what I said, it said articulated, but does it have the quick, like where you can detach the whatever?
A snow blower to a
Yeah,
V-plow,
so whatever you
got a seeder in the back. Yep, we get forks for it.
So that's what's all that price there is what, or is that just the?
It is, yeah, I spec'd out the V-plow, the bucket, we have a sander, we have a blower, so that was,
So it all
but
works
the
with
unit
what you
itself,
have?
yes.
All right.
Yeah, and we've got a lot of little implements we got over the
Nice.
years. So no, it'd be a great little tool. And then for the summer months too, and basically that's like a little mini loader. A lot of times, again, Parks and Rec, they need stuff and they don't need a huge, or big loader, you know?
Right.
So they could, once we give them the proper training, of course,
Of course.
we let them borrow that.
Do they still have to give you the deposit and their driver's license?
Things like that, yeah, no, I'm keeping a close eye on them.
Okay.
Busy lately, yeah.
All right. Any questions? Any other questions, Rick?
If we do get this, and you guys feel free, like if you need spare time in the winter, we can set you up an easy route.
Not at 3:30 in the morning, right? Like,
I'm serious.
Yeah,
I might-
done by 6:30, you know, 6:30, 7 o'clock, these kids go to school.
What happened to the parking lot thing? I mean, I
Right,
thought we just had
exactly.
a wide open.
Well, we could, yeah, we could try that first, and we see who wants to do the
Gotcha.
other stuff.
I will make a motion that we award the bid for the wheel loader to Milton Rental and Sales for the not-to-exceed amount of $59,972.99.
Second.
Any further discussion? Rick, thank you so much for putting all this together, and staff, appreciate that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
Rick, we stay for a couple minutes until we get to multi-use.
Yeah.
Thanks. I'm sure.
So do you want me to do this? So we have a resolution for Mary Ann Reardon.
Yeah, I can touch on it. You know, in your packets, we have a draft resolution for Mary Ann Reardon. Obviously, she's been our minutes taker here for many years. We thought it'd be nice, and we thought maybe if you guys were of a mind to approve it, we would then invite her and present it to her.
Yep. Okay.
When she's not doing the baby grandchild thing.
I just wanted to make it clear that we were doing that as a separate piece there. Okay, is everyone okay with it? I don't think,
That's
do
great.
we, I guess do we approve this or just give you consent? I don't know how we work on the
Maybe you just-
resolution.
I would approve it, and then
Okay.
we'll provide it to her when we get her scheduled to come.
I will make a motion that we approve the resolution for Mary Ann Reardon and invite her to come at a time that's convenient for her, to give it to her.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great, thank you for taking care of that. And I'll read it at the time, or whoever chair will read it at the time. Thank you. Okay, so we are now on to trustee meeting schedule and multi-use path. Evan, do you want to switch those around?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
So let's update on multi-use path. I'm gonna pass this around. Maybe 2 meetings ago, 3 meetings ago, a gentleman who backs up to the path
Yeah.
came to the board, mentioned that they still have a lot of some of the same issues, people hanging out on the path, garbage, and people using the retaining wall that's basically right in the middle of the path in terms of total length. People use it as a bench. I was tasked with working with staff to find some options of what to do over there. I have had a chance to speak with the police, with Public Works, and with the Community Development Director. So I'm gonna start with the police. They do try to get there when they can. Because of the bollards that are at both ends of it, we don't have the ability to get a vehicle. But they will go there as often as they can, and they will get out and talk to me when they're available to go there. Public Works did talk to our trash hauler. We do now have 2 garbage cans at least temporarily out there until we get a more permanent solution. They are on wheels, but they're somewhat towards the ends because they have to go in there, wheel them, get them back out, wheel them back. But at least there are some garbage cans. They have been used a little bit, and not so much as one would like, but that's the beginning. And then our community development director is also a certified arborist or landscape person, so they went out and looked at it, and so he has some plants. We looked at several options, some from the maybe draconian, where we put up spikes and things like that, to poison ivy. We're not looking to hurt
Right.
anybody or unsuspecting people. And then we came with this. These are rose-type bushes. They will have thorns, and so it is not going to be a pleasant place to sit. And it'll give it not a lot of color, but it'll give it some greenery. So we think that this is at least a good effort and a good try, and we'll see if this works. And then in the summer months, the police will be able to do their bike patrols and other things in a little bit more active patrol area. So with that, I just want to give you an update. I don't think I really needed approval, but I just want to answer any questions, and Rick is still here to be able to answer any questions you have about their operations.
Yep.
So I thank you for the quick turnaround on this, and trying to find a solution. So I'm curious, are they being planted in front of the wall that they'll grow up, or on top?
top of the
So
wall.
that they'll kind of
And hang down.
Okay, great, wonderful. And then,
So as you maybe remember, there's the top of the wall and there's the fence.
Right.
They'll be planted in and along there
So then they
in
can
whatever
come over.
design
Okay.
our community development director and his assistant come up with.
Okay.
and,
And I'm pointing to the back of the room to Rick
That would
Jones,
be
his
Rick.
assistant.
and then my other, it's more of a suggestion. I don't know if you're still meeting periodically with the school, with Beth and Brian, but, you know, as
We
you know,
haven't
I.
met recently, but
Okay,
yes.
but just next time you do, you just might wanna let them know there's a lot of high school kids hanging out there in the afternoons. They might wanna know that.
So we did mention that before.
Okay.
But one of the things is, once the school kids are off the school property,
know.
they're not theirs.
I know, but might wanna pay attention.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very
Apparently,
much.
once they leave school property, they're ours.
They're ours, yes. Yeah.
So,
So thank you, Evan, I
You're welcome.
appreciate it.
Just have a couple clarifying questions. Are these, when just seeing 3 to 5 containers or 3 to 5 gallon containers, are these going to be stood on top of the wall, or are they physically planted inside the ground?
So there's a ground area behind the cap of the wall,
Mm-hmm.
between the wall and the fence. There's dirt back there. I'm assuming they're gonna get
Yeah,
planted
of course,
along
dig.
Okay.
about the,
Back about a foot and a half deep. So
Okay.
would you say that's
Not- not
about
like-
70+ feet along that wall?
I think it was 130, I think,
Yeah.
I heard the other day.
About 130
Okay.
feet of wall, and then there's maybe about a 2-foot strip of dirt back there.
Yeah,
or-
between the cement and the fence.
Yeah.
We gotta go through and dig that out.
Great, great.
So once you get the plans in, we'll.
Yeah, when I saw containers, I just wanted to make sure they weren't gonna be physically placed on top. That could be to get their seat
That
back.
won't work.
Okay. And then my other understanding as well is that a fair number of the complaints or concerns were also around like public intoxication. And I know when I was taking a look through our ordinances, and this could just be my lack of capabilities, I couldn't find that we have one.
We do not.
And so maybe for a future conversation,
We're
our
gonna have
board
that
should have
conversation
it
now.
right now.
Yeah, well, I'm going to,
Sweet.
so.
Before you go there, can I ask
Yeah.
one more question about the plantings? Will it happen this year?
We're gonna start to, we're buying the plants tomorrow, and they will be installed.
Okay, great. Sorry.
No, that's,
We're a
How they
little
die.
late, but not too late.
Roses are hurting. These are.
Okay.
thank you.
Evan, do you want to keep going, or do you want to?
I'll be happy to go, so we touched on that. The trustee meeting schedule is just normal, that's in your packet. C, we added was seniors petition, and then I just have a couple of comments. So why
Yeah,
don't
go
we
ahead.
touch on senior petition?
Yeah.
Before we do, I just wanted to follow back up real quick. George, you had mentioned about the public intoxication piece.
I'll wait until Evan's done with
Okay,
his
so-
manager, then we'll do trustee comments, and then
All right.
I'm just gonna make a comment about something for us to
Anyone
think
to see
about.
if Joe has anything to say?
Hmm?
Anyone in the audience have anything to say about this?
Oh, does anyone in the audience have something to talk about in terms of the multi-use path?
Well, I'm the one whose property
Yep,
alongside Joe
yep.
Early at 36 Grove Street. I appreciate everything that's being done, and I have noticed the trash cans come out there, and that was a good start, and I'm encouraged to hear kind of what's going on. It's still a problem. I was just telling Lori that my house, my backyard was broken into and vandalized, and I can't put the blame on the path, obviously. And I did have a couple that woke us up at 3 a.m. that were arguing about marital infidelities or something along those lines, and so it was an odd thing to happen, but they were on the path, of course. But I do appreciate the work that's getting done, and I am continuing to call the police and so forth. That's what we can do. And I would love to see public intoxication. I'd love to see loitering laws too.
Okay.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate that.
If you want to touch that now.
I was wondering if we would like to have staff begin to look into this. I don't know. I know that we've talked about this before. Have we? About
We have.
why we don't have a public loitering or a public intoxication ordinance. Do you know?
Well, we addressed somewhat that issue with the gentleman who was sleeping and having an encampment by the fairgrounds on Pearl Street.
Right.
And I know the police department was actively involved with that issue. I agree. I think I'm all for this. The loitering and public intoxication ordinances, not really laws per se, because the
Right.
law is state statute, and this is going to be a local ordinance, civil
Right.
violation. But I think we should entertain this issue, and we should get Chief Gary in here to discuss it with him.
Okay.
It could be, and I think we should probably, well, the town, I'm sure, has their own thing going, but it might be something that we'd want to do jointly.
Yeah, okay. I feel the same way, and I know, it seems to me, I'm just trying to remember, years ago, we talked about it, and then there was some logic about why we don't have one, and I can't remember what that was. That, it's sometimes, I don't know if it was under the category, you don't want to pass ordinances that you can't enforce, and that might be it. But I'd like to maybe, and I know you're busy, so it's not like we have to get it done like next week, but I'd like maybe to prepare you, start thinking about it, talk to Chief Gary, as Dan said, and.
We could do some research.
Yeah, research.
We could do some research on the topic, we can look at some other villages and see what they have as some examples. I could have Darby or somebody do something like that, if this is not something you want at the next meeting, we could do it, maybe in 2 meetings and get some research in that. Give me a little time to not only do that, but also discuss with Chief Gary and maybe even Claudine a little bit of her thoughts, and then maybe bring it back November or early December.
Yeah, I think it's something to start,
Sure.
and maybe there's some revised way of doing it that, it's a little more focused, and we can come up with something that would be enforceable.
Sure.
With something that would work with the police. All right, my thoughts.
Great.
Okay, so if we're ready for C,
Yeah.
we just passed out, so days are running into each other. I believe this was Friday or late Friday or Monday. We received something from the seniors group, they're calling it a petition with over 100 signatures requesting the installation of handicap buttons. Thereby making it easier and safer to access the Essex area senior center. I can go on and read, this is from their letter.
Yep.
Actually I can put on my glasses. All the signers understand that we are humbly requesting the buttons, but if it is necessary to consider them complaints in order to activate make it openers be installed on the 3 fire-related doors at the Essex Area Senior Center and the main entrance leading into the village offices. We feel this is becoming a necessity as we are aging and finding it harder to open these heavy doors. Those of us who need to use canes, walkers, or wheelchairs are finding the task especially difficult and hazardous. So we just received this. I was gonna mention in my report, but we since added it to the agenda. Dennis was here just a little while ago. This issue was brought to me a couple of months ago by Luann with just a price quote, with no information, no details of what they were gonna do, how they were gonna do it. So I turned over the issue to Dennis Lutz to look at it, to go through what we would consider our normal process of looking at it, making sure we do a price quote, and get 3 quotes per our policies and things of that nature. And we're doing so. But we also, I'll be honest with you, I don't know what they're talking about yet, about what it triggers when they make a complaint. Our building has ADA accessibility from the exterior. I'm not an ADA expert about interior. But previous to that, I'd also contacted the high school, who deals with ADA a lot more than we do, and to see if there was any funding or places to go look for what could easily be a $20,000 expense. We also don't have $20,000 budgeted in this year's budget. So we would be if we were going to do something, it would probably be as part of this budget discussion coming up, see where we're going, and maybe look at ways to find funding for such a project.
Yeah,
Including maybe a
Yeah,
joint
I had
project with
some
the town.
thoughts on Patty's last day. Lori and I both coincidentally showed up at the same time to say goodbye to Patty, and she, of course, we took a tour of the exterior of the building, and we really focused on that area over there. And, you know, the entryway coming into here has been patched multiple times. There's cracks in the concrete. It just occurred to me, I'll bring this up, again, nothing that has to happen right away, but this is something would have to budget for, but I'm wondering if we don't want to do, instead of a piece here and a piece here and a piece here, sort of look at the entire area from the fire department side, that area that separates the two sides, with gardens in it, with the greenery in it, the rail, the ramp, and onto this side, the paved area. Maybe even go so far as to have an architect look at the whole thing and maybe get an estimate of what it would cost to really reconfigure the whole thing, to make it accessible for the van to turn around. But I'm gonna float that idea out again during budget season, see how much it would cost. And I might even suggest the possibilities that we've got a lot of folks from outside the village, from up in the town. They're very welcome. We love having them here, but maybe our friends at 81 Main would want to kick in on this project with us. So something to think about.
I think that's great, and I like the idea of not doing a lot of patchwork, but I would say, if it's possible, and I don't know when you're gonna have some price quotes, but to even do the senior center door. So, you know, what is the price? So I know in here, they're asking for, I think, 3 doors, but, is it possible to do 1, and what is the cost? So just to piecemeal it a little bit for that purpose. And it would be good to know, obviously, about the ADA
Yeah.
complaint, maybe a lawyer
And
can
one of
tell us about that.
one of the ideas, and we've been talking about this, is it is very difficult, and everybody thinks concrete is great. It is generally very durable. Except, what a little known fact about concrete is you don't put salt on concrete for at least 1 year of new concrete. It will spalt, it will chip, it will do everything that you don't want it to do. So it is not necessarily the best application to put in a winter setting at a place that needs to be safe in terms of slippery or non-slippery. So there's some things. There are other ways to do it. One of the ways is you heat it. You attach some glycol lines to your boiler or whatever it is, and you warm it so that you don't worry about it icing, because it won't ice, because it's being kept at or above 32 degrees. It is expensive, but it doesn't chip and spald and do all those things. But if we're gonna look at it, we can look at options. That's just the door that's right outside here that keeps chipping and spalding. Their ramp is actually in somewhat decent shape. The railings are wrong, and the door swing is counterproductive to what they're trying to do. And then you've got the senior bus. So we do need to look at the whole thing. And whether we do 1 door, 3 doors, we're gonna look at it and figure out what it actually needs and what's the best solution, because piecing it together is not a great idea either. And if we're gonna have somebody do electrical work and all these other things, which we're gonna have to do to make them power assisted, we might as well get it all set up for what we're looking to do.
Which I agree with wholeheartedly, except if it's going to be 2 years
Yeah,
down the road,
well,
or
I
1
mean-
year down the road, looking at one door
Well, if we
is
do,
a
if we do,
possibility.
you know, again, if we're gonna do, and we end up piecing the doors, at least we'll do the electrical work in anticipation of the doors and do things like that. I know George mentioned maybe 81 Main, the town. Again, these are everyone's seniors, not only
Right.
the town, the village, but there's about 100 of them from different communities.
Williston,
But,
Colchester.
but they are at our building,
Mhm,
so.
exactly.
Yeah, I would just echo the sentiment that having the big picture would be great, and then the implementation of that in terms of if there's a door that has to be retrofitted short-term, then do that before we do the entire long-term prospect.
Mhm.
So I think that the message is, I would say to the seniors, we got the petition, we heard them loud and clear, we're working on it. Please understand that we're not a business, we can't just, we have to budget for things ahead of time, particularly expensive things. So this may be a while before we get to it, but we are gonna get to it, we will get to it. Okay,
Yeah, and just as I mentioned earlier, I'm putting some feelers out on grants, and there's definitely some stuff in the spring. That is a possibility, but I will put it all together and give it to you.
I appreciate that. Just a couple things quick. I mentioned to all in one of my communications, the police department has put a specific officer onto traffic patrol. I don't know if you've seen him recently, but he is, it's actually quite interesting how the chief has deployed this officer. He is going to be on different shifts, different points of the week. So he will go from early shift to middays to midnights through the week, to be able to address different areas of the community that have traffic issues throughout the day or the night, etc. So you will start seeing a lot more traffic enforcement. You will see warnings and tickets. And so one of the things the chief did, and I don't know if he sent out basically a notice to people that you're gonna notice it, and we are gonna ticket people blocking the intersection, blocking driveways, speeding, U-turns, not stopping for people in the school crosswalks. We are gonna do that, because we've been hearing it, we just finally now have the manpower able to do it. Also, we have our canine dog. Long story short, we took an officer away from the sheriff's department to fill a vacancy. He was their drug dog. The dog and the officer train together, period. There is no other trainer for the dog. They don't retrain the dog with another handler. So when our officer came, the dog wasn't of the same value to the sheriff, but it's the property of the sheriff. Well, the town made a deal with the sheriff to get the dog as well. Chief Gary came to me and asked me what my feelings were about the dog, and I said, well, I'm okay with a pilot program. The dog is not only a drug sniffing dog, it's also he finds lost people.
Tracking.
Tracking, thank you, that's the word, tracking dog. And we have used that dog several times over the years. In fact, one of the times we used him recently, we were looking for someone who had fled from our police officers. It was complete darkness. Our officers were standing there, waited for the officer, who is now our officer, to show up with the dog. Dog got out of the car, started barking, went about 75 feet and to the bushes behind our officers, and the assailant was in the bushes. It was less than a minute.
So Evan, would this dog like to take a stroll down the multi-use path? Do you
Right.
think? I could see him being walked down there.
I can see
That
that
a big, tough-looking dog would.
it's a lab.
Yeah, it's a lab. Oh.
It's not a bite dog.
Okay.
It does not bite, but the officer is equipped.
He might.
But the whole package might make an impression on people.
Yeah, but the officer is equipped to handle anybody he comes into contact with on the path. So it's just a service that we have adopted with us, and so when people see us with an officer with a dog, it's just part of our force. That's what I've got for tonight.
All right, thank you. So we are on to any trustee comments, concerns, other things that we have not covered tonight.
Only thing I was gonna express is the appreciation for seeing that online through, I believe it was Front Porch Forum, and then again onto the various Facebook pages that it went on, and how inspiring it is, frankly, to see our law enforcement community being a part of those communities and of those communications, because I know from neighboring communities how appreciated it is by their residents to see their police department engaging in that. So I appreciate Chief Gary doing that.
I do too, and they've got some very good people out there that want to do these things. They need the time.
Yeah.
So we are on to the reading file, correct?
Minutes.
Minutes. I'm sorry, yeah, minutes in the reading file. I do have one correction, Kathy. The trustee, Essex Junction trustee meeting of 10/9/18 on page 5. At the bottom, very last paragraph, it says, Mr. Levy summarized the suggestions and topics considered, and I'm pretty sure Max wasn't at the meeting. I'm guessing maybe I got confused, or you meant either me or Evan, I'm not sure. I don't remember this, I don't remember the meeting in detail.
Let's find it.
The page 5 of the trustee meeting, right down to the very last paragraph. Mr. Yeah,
I'm sorry, it was you, actually.
that's okay. We do get confused.
It was-
Actually, I think if you go back up, I think he's at the top of the page too. Maybe.
Yeah.
I think I put you as Mr. Levy twice.
That's okay.
We'll blame the new girl.
He won't be offended.
So we'll
He
change-
won't be offended.
So with those corrections, we'll make those corrections, approve subject to those corrections?
I actually had a very similar one myself.
Go ahead.
2 paragraphs up from that, it talked about how Mr. Tyler presented the capital plan, and it referenced, no offense, George.
That's
It
okay.
referenced Mr. Tyler a few times, and it was me.
It was you?
We are very similar, so.
It's hard. No, that's
I
not,
just wanted to put you on.
Max and I was one thing, but that's not, don't sell yourself short, Andrew, that's okay.
Well, we get Andrew and Dan confused all the
Yeah.
time.
Don't sell yourself short, but don't sell yourself gray either.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so with those corrections, we will approve the minutes, right? I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And anything else in the minutes or reading file? Everyone good? Okay. And so we are now on to the consent
I'll
agenda.
move we approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
7.